Hi guys, it's me Sakhir HD and welcome to another race weekend in 2019. And this weekend, of course, it is the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix. And today, this afternoon, at least here in the UK, we are going to be watching along practice 2 here in Bahrain. Hopefully you guys, no matter where you are in the world, are doing all good. And hopefully you are going to enjoy today's practice session. We should be getting something a bit different to what we had in Australia, because this track is different to Albert Park. There is no doubt about it. This track requires a different type of driving style and requires a different type of car to be successful here. And that's why I think practice 2 is going to be quite interesting to see who has the pace at a genuine race track, the first genuine race track on the calendar. So I cannot wait to get this underway, and hopefully guys, later on in this practice watch along, Nib as for the watch along, he is currently running late. Hopefully he does join us in a bit though. But before I get into previewing how I think the teams are going to do in practice 2 and what I expect from certain teams and drivers, let me first show you what happened in practice 1. So these are the results of practice 1. And here you go. So the top 10 was Charles Leclerc fastest, from Sebastian Vettel in second. Bottas was third. Hamilton was fourth. And then Verstappen was fifth with Gasly in P6. Carlos Sainz was P7 with Hülkenberg P8. Kvyat P9 and Kimi Räikkönen in P10. And then the bottom 10 is Ricciardo, Magnussen, Albon, Perez, Norris, Giovinazzi, Grosjean, Stroll. And then, of course, the two Williamses, George Russell and Robert Kubica. Nice to see, though, that Kubica is a bit closer to Russell than he was in Australia. But I absolutely have to stress this. The reason I'm not going to be reviewing what happened in practice 1 properly is because at Bahrain, because of the time of day qualifying and the race takes place at, practice 1 and practice 3 means absolutely nothing. So when it comes to those results, don't pay attention to them at all, because the track conditions and the weather conditions and the temperature and all of that is going to be massively different for practice 2, qualifying and the Grand Prix. And of course the cars, work in a different way under different conditions, and so do the tyres. So those times in practice 1, ignore them, because they don't mean anything. They're not representative at all. Practice 1 in Bahrain is probably the most unrepresentative practice session of the season. So do not pay attention to those results, because again, they literally don't mean anything. Practice 2, which is coming up in about 25 minutes, will be the only representative practice session, because it takes place at the same time of day as qualifying and the Grand Prix will. So practice 2, we will get a good idea of who does have the pace and who does not. So going into practice 2, let me preview how I think certain teams are going to do and what I expect from these certain teams. And of course I will start from the very top and start off with Mercedes. Now, Bahrain historically is not as good of a track for this team as Australia is, so I don't expect this team to have the best car. I don't expect that. I think they will have, in qualifying trim, the second best car. That is to be expected at the very least. But I don't, in practice 2, I don't necessarily think Mercedes are going to show us absolutely everything they do have, because as I got into my last video, which by the way, if you have not checked out, it's in the description down below. The video is called Mercedes, the Masters of Mind Games and Manipulation. Make sure to check that out. Mercedes don't tend to push and really hard and really show what they do have until the very last moment. So don't expect them to be right up there with Ferrari, because I don't think they're going to be pushing it too hard. And I think for them, they're going to be concentrating more on the race simulations, to be honest, than the qualifying simulations. So I don't expect them to be the fastest in qualifying or race trim, but they're going to be right up there. There's no doubt about that. Next up, of course, is Ferrari. Ferrari should have the best car. For me, considering the history of this track for them and the way their car looks around this track from the past couple of years and the characteristics that this car has, it should be the best car in Bahrain. There is no, for me, excuse for Ferrari not to have the best car. They absolutely have to max it out this weekend. And I wouldn't be shocked at all. In fact, I'm going to predict I think Ferrari will have the fastest car in practice 2. Whether it will be a 1-2 in practice 2, I don't know. But I think they will have the fastest car. And they absolutely have to, because I know it's only the second race of the season, but they've got to start responding to what Mercedes laid down to them in Albert Park. So I think Ferrari have to, on track, make a statement and show how quick they can be when the power unit is working and all well and turned up absolutely fine. And when they've actually got the setup right on the car, they need to show that they do have the speed for 2019. So hopefully Ferrari do show us that. And then we go on to Red Bull. In terms of qualifying trim, I don't think Red Bull are going to be that quick. Honestly, I expect them to be 5th and 6th until Grand Prix day. But definitely watch out for them in the race simulations. That's where you need to watch out for Red Bull, because I think on race day, they are likely to have the best car. Because last year in the race simulations, Red Bull had the best car at this track. And normally on race day, unless you're going to a track like Spa or Monza, Red Bull do have the best car for race pace. So the race simulations for me, for Red Bull, are going to be very interesting to see just how quick they can be. And if they do have the best car in terms of race pace, how much quicker are they than the other two rivals that they do have? That'll be interesting to see. But when it comes to qualifying trim, don't expect anything. They're going to be most likely, for me, 3rd row of the grid, or 5th and 6th. Now, let's get into the midfield. And the midfield at this Grand Prix is going to be very close. And I cannot wait for the Grand Prix just to see how close it is in terms of racing. Also in qualifying, can't wait for that to see how close the gaps are. But I think the midfield is going to be very topsy-turvy and very close here in Bahrain. For Renault, I don't actually expect that much from Renault. To be honest, I'm expecting less from Renault at this track than I was at Albert Park. I don't think Renault are going to be as good as they were at Albert Park, but that's not to say they were actually good at Albert Park. So I think this is going to be a bit of a struggle for Renault, because basically I don't think their car is best suited to a track like this. And also, I don't think they have the power to be faster than teams like Haas or even Alfa Romeo or potentially Toro Rosso. So if they're going to be in the top 10, they're going to have to really pull out a great lap, I think, because I don't think the Renault car around this track, realistically, considering the strengths and the weaknesses of the car compared to the other midfield teams, I don't think Bahrain is their best track. But we'll see, of course, in FP2. For McLaren, kind of like Renault, I don't think this car is really going to go well around this track. I don't think they have the car that is needed to be good here. I just don't think they do. I think the race simulations for Renault and McLaren will be interesting to see how quick they are. But when it comes to qualifying speed, I expect McLaren definitely to be outside the top 10. I don't think they can be in the top 10. It'd be a surprise, a very nice surprise if they were, but I don't think they can. I don't think McLaren have the speed to be in the top 10, but hopefully I am surprised by that. Next up is Alfa Romeo, and I think at this track they are going to go better because I think this track suits their car better. Because if you go back and watch the Australian Grand Prix, that track, you need an aggressive car, a car that's very pointy and, as I just said, aggressive. This Alfa Romeo car to me looks like a car that will go better at more conservative tracks where you don't have to throw it about like you do at Albert Park. And Bahrain is a more conservative racetrack. So for me, the Alfa will be better at this track than it was at Albert Park. And also, Kimi Raikkonen is fantastic at the Sakhir International Circuit. He's had plenty of podiums. I think the most amount of podiums out of any driver at this track. So you can see that he is very, very good at Bahrain. And I think they will have not a massively better car, but I think a slightly better overall package compared to what they had in Australia. And I think Kimi Raikkonen will be nicely competitive in the top 10. For Giovinazzi, we'll see, but I don't have that great hopes for him, honestly. Next up is Haas. I expect Haas to have the best car in the midfield. This track should suit their car really to a T. They have most likely the most powerful power unit on the grid once it's all working and turned up and not suffering from cooling issues. And aerodynamically or chassis-wise, their car seems to be a step ahead of the other midfield teams. So, for me, Haas are the favourites to be at the front of the midfield. And I don't think in qualifying they're going to be that far behind, say, Red Bull. Because, I mean, look at qualifying in Australia. Haas, I think with Romain Grosjean, were only 3 or 4 tenths behind Leclerc and Verstappen, who were P4 and P5. So I don't think Haas will be that far off the back of Red Bull or whoever is on the third row of the grid. So expect Haas to be at the front of the midfield, just like they were in Melbourne. Next up, Toro Rosso. They are the dark horse for a strong result. Of course, last year, Pierre Gasly, they pulled out an incredible qualifying, entire weekend really. Qualifying in the Grand Prix was fantastic, but the entire weekend, they had the pace and the consistency with that pace that they had. And I think they will be the dark horse for a good result. I think they can get a car into the top 10. I don't know if they can consistently rank in the top 10, but I think they can. If they max it out, I think they can get a car into that top 10. So don't be surprised if you see a Toro Rosso in there, because of course last year they went so well in the desert. Next up, Racing Point. Racing Point should be better at this track than they were at Albert Park, and if that is the case, then that's going to be great for them, because of course in Albert Park, Perez got into the top 10 in qualifying, and then Stroll scored points for the P9 in the Grand Prix. So if this is a better track for them, which I think it will be, they should be right there with, say, Renault, Toro Rosso, you know, trying to get points. I think they really can. I think they really do have the car to get a points finish and to get into the top 10 and rank in the top 10 with their car, similar to Toro Rosso. So don't be surprised if, say, Sergio Perez is nicely up in the top 10, because I think that Racing Point car is definitely capable of being in that type of position. And then last of all, of course, is Williams, who are going to be at the back. But there has been some news when it comes to Williams. Patrick Head, of course, the most famous, one of the most famous engineers in Formula One history, and Williams's most famous and best engineer of all time, is returning to the team as a technical consultant. Now, a consultant role is a very grey area because you don't know what it exactly involves. But for me, I understand why people are happy about this, because, Patrick is going to know better things to work for this team than Claire Williams is or anyone else at that team. But for me, this is the wrong decision, because it comes off to me as them going back to the well, or going back to someone who used to be successful with the team to try and get a short-term fix and drag them out of the position that they are in. They don't need older engineers. They don't need that. They need, for me, young, smart engineers in that team that can make progress with the car. Of course, you do need the more experienced heads in that team, but I don't think Patrick Head is the answer. I don't think he is. Because, I mean, look, he had his time with Williams. He is partly responsible for why that team went from being a top team consistently in the early 2000s to being a midfield team. So don't think that this guy is, you know, completely fantastic the entire way round. I don't think he is. So, I mean, you know, he had great days in the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, but for me, his time has come. And I just don't think he is the answer. I don't think he really is the answer. It's like a football team going back to an old manager to take charge of their team, or, you know, getting an ex-player to run the team. That's what it feels like. They're going back to the well. That's what it feels like to me. And I don't think it is the right decision. But there you go. That's the decision they've made. And hopefully it does help them. But realistically, I don't think it will. But there you go. But guys, going into practice 2, as we are now about 14 minutes away, let me know what you expect from all the teams going into practice 2, what type of performance you expect from all the teams, and also what do you think about that news to do with Patrick Head? Do you think that is the right decision? And can he actually get that team off the ground and be in the midfield and not be a backmarker team? Do you think he can actually help them? Let me know right now in the live chat or the comments section down below, and I'll try to read out as many comments as I can, also in the live chat. But before I do, just need to let you guys know, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as on Saturday and Sunday around the same time I will be doing a qualifying and race watch along for the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix, so don't forget to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can click subscribe right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for more content like this. But I'll now move on to some pictures of the top teams whilst I'm reading out what you guys have to say right now in the chat. So let me see what you guys are having to say. Count Blast says they have nothing to lose at this point. They could get a toddler as their chief and probably do better. I understand your reasoning, but I just don't agree with it, because even if it does help them, it's going to be, for me, a short-term fix, and they don't need a short-term fix. They need a long-term fix. A short-term fix is not going to be the answer, because even if Williams do get into the midfield and maybe get a point through him helping out the car and improving the car, what about next season when he maybe goes away? They're just going to go back to where they were. So they need younger people in that team that are going to make a difference, and for the long term are going to drag this team forward, not in the short term. Because getting Patrick Head on board, that's a short-term fix. That's not a long-term fix. There's no long-term plan with bringing Patrick Head back to the team. Right, let me find some more comments here. Francisco says, Chazza, what's your view on the Kimi Sainz incident, on the Kimi Albon incident, and the Hulk Giovinazzi incident? I'm going to be honest, guys, I didn't actually watch practice 1 because, as I said at the start of this stream, it's unrepresentative. So there's no point of me watching it, because the cars are going to react very, very differently when they're actually in the conditions that the qualifying the race is going to be held in. So I didn't actually watch it. I did catch the Hulkenberg Giovinazzi incident, and for me, Giovinazzi was, I think, at fault. I think he was a bit too aggressive in trying to get his way past, I think, at the very end of the session. So, yeah, I think he was at fault. But for me, yeah, I didn't watch practice one because, again, it's unrepresentative. The conditions do not represent anything like what it's going to be like for qualifying or the Grand Prix. Let me just find some more comments here, and I'll quickly switch to this picture. Hold on a minute. Tonka Toy Truck asking, who will be the surprise driver / team this weekend? Surprise drivers, I'm going to say Kvyat, Perez, and who else? I'll say Kvyat and Perez for sure. They're definitely going to be surprises. I don't know who I'd say after that. Maybe Carlos Sainz, but if you look at his record at Bahrain, it's actually quite poor. I don't think Carlos Sainz has actually ever scored points at this track. I don't think he has. No, I don't think he has. So I wouldn't say him. But yeah, Kvyat and Perez, I think those two will be the surprises, honestly. Right, let me find some more comments here. Stella saying Alfa Romeo is probably going to be in Q3 with Kimi and Gio, maybe P12 or P13. Well, obviously, if they do get into Q3, they, you know, one of their cars has to be in the top 10. But there you go. Francisco says, actually, surprisingly good news for Williams. Now fire Claire. Indeed, they have to fire Claire Williams. They absolutely have to. And Count Blah asks, and yes, I have seen this. He asks, did you hear Perez's comments about Lance's race pace? Yes, I did. Now, I don't really want to comment on it because we haven't seen enough races this season to actually give a verdict on whether Lance Stroll does have better race pace than Hülkenberg or Ocon. I can't say. I think Stroll probably has better race pace than Perez's first ever teammate, Kamui Kobayashi, because Kobayashi was truly mental and he was very inconsistent. But with Hülkenberg and Ocon, I can't say right now. We'll have to see, say 5-6 races down the line. We'll have to see then, because, you know, we've had one Grand Prix. His race pace was very good in Melbourne, and he executed perfectly his plan of strategy in the Grand Prix. But it's been one Grand Prix. We can't say whether he is better than this driver or that driver, or has better race pace than this driver. We can't say. We need to wait. We do need to wait. Right, let me read out one more comment, then I'll switch to another picture. Simon Craglan, Perez does often talk rubbish. Mythical being TV, I bet on Renault. Zay Rugara says, Gasly, he could win. More surprising things have happened. I think Gasly could get a podium, but I don't think he will win. I don't think he will have the speed to win. But if the Red Bull car is as quick in the race as I think it will be, then I think Pierre will be a contender for the podium. And I think he would have been a contender for the podium if he qualified where he should have at the first race. But of course, Red Bull destroyed his qualifying. So I think Pierre is a contender for a podium, but I wouldn't say contender for race victory. Ultraman asks, how much time left before FP2 starts? We have 5 more minutes until the start of practice 2. So I'll cut to this picture. Tonka Toy Truck says Gasly will finish in the top 6. Definitely. If he doesn't finish in the top 6, I'd be very, very worried about his speed. Right, let me find a couple more comments before we get started here. If you're just joining, we are 5 minutes away from the start of practice 2. So make sure to hop on and get ready for practice 2 in Bahrain. It's going to be an interesting session, no doubt about it, as the F1 intro right now is currently playing. And just to let you guys know, if you are new to my watch-along format, what I do is throw up as many pictures on the screen of what is going on track. I can't show video for obvious reasons because I get copyrighted. And then along the bottom of the screen, as I'll show you in a moment, I will have a running order, and then I will try to update that as many times as I can over the course of the 90-minute practice session. So yeah, I'll throw up in a minute a different picture to what I have on screen right now. Tonka Toy Truck. I'm betting on Lettuce Head and K-Mag for 7th and 8th. If you don't know who Lettuce Head is, it is of course Roman Grosjean. Right. Let me just switch pictures a moment, as it is almost dark in Bahrain, and this is what I mean by practice 1 not being representative. Practice 1 is held in bright sunshine. Practice 2, just like qualifying at the Grand Prix, is held in darkness, and that's why you cannot at all pay attention to qualify or pay attention to practice 1 or practice 3, because the conditions are not representative of what is actually, you know, who is actually quick or not. But there you go. That's the scene right now at the track. Let me just lower it here a minute, because now, there you go. So that is the running order I have. And then I'll just put the image right there. So yeah, I'll try to put up as many pictures as I can during the practice session, and I'll update the order as many times as possible. I won't be able to do it, you know, literally as people cross the line or anything like that. But once there's a quick break in the action, I'll update it with what the order actually is. So yeah, we are 3 minutes away from the start of practice. Practice 2. Let me see what you guys are having to say as we are getting set here for the start of the session. Simon Craglan, I have bought F1 TV, but Crofty is really bad. Well, now you finally found out what we all think of Crofty. Hopefully I can be somewhat better than Crofty, even though that's probably not possible because I'm just a kid. And he is working for Sky Sports F1. But if I can be better than him, then there you go. But we are 2 minutes away from the start here, as Danny Kvyat is being belted in for this practice session. I am definitely looking forward to this, because this is the first proper track of the calendar where we get to see who does genuinely have the pace, because around street tracks or tracks like Albert Park, it's a weird track. It suits a certain type of driver or a certain type of car. This track is, say, a better indicator as to who does really have a good car and who does not than Albert Park, say. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, who does have really the better car 2 races in to the 2019 season. Crystal Racing asks, do you think Ferrari will have the upper hand in FP2? I think they should. I think they should have the upper hand, because it's a track that does suit them. So they should be the quickest car here. They should. But good news, I do have Nib here now, as practice 2 has just started. So, Nib, are you there? Oh, no, don't think he is. He says he can't hear me for some reason. But he is here, kind of. So, yeah. Right, let me...
Can't hear you, by the way.
Let me try and see if I can fix this quickly. Right. I'll have to bring him in just a moment. There's a slight issue. But yeah. Tonka Toy Truck is usually the other way around. We can't hear him. Simon Cracklin says he thinks Ferrari will be quicker than Mercedes this weekend. Yeah, I think Ferrari will be as well. Whether they'll actually get the result that they should get, I don't know. We'll have to see. They should beat them this weekend with the car that they potentially do have, but yeah, we'll see. Let me try now. Can you hear me now? Right, hold on a minute. Let me just... Right, so here is finally Nib. So Nib, how are you doing? And what are you looking forward to in practice 2 from the teams?
Well, I'm glad to finally be here. You know, it's taken me a little while to get into the stream, and I do apologize for that. I'm very happy to be joining the practice watch-alongs for sure. You know, I was tuning in at Albert Park, you know, racetrack during the practice session, so I'm very glad to be here for Bahrain. And most certainly in practice too, I'm looking forward to see, you know, this little qualifying simulations that they are running, and of course the race simulations. Those are the most important things that we're going to be seeing in the most representative track conditions of the weekend.
Yeah, that is it's going to be a nice thing to see, because practice 1, I know some people have been talking about, oh, look who has the pace, you know, Ferrari for example, but practice 1 means nothing, especially with the conditions it's held in. So I don't think what happened in practice 1 will actually manifest itself in practice 2. Not completely, it won't be completely different, but I think this is the only practice session that we're going to have representative conditions of what is actually going on, because again, practice 1, the conditions just don't make it a representative session. But one thing that is a bit annoying right now is we are about 3.5 minutes in to practice 2, by the way, and not one car has gone out on the track, and doesn't look like anyone is actually going out on the track, and that is very frustrating. So I guess
talking.
Yeah, he's walking up and down the
background, walking.
Yeah,
very aggressively.
So yeah, maybe he'll be telling his team to get a move on. But yeah, all the teams are not coming out at the moment. But before the teams come out, because I'm guessing they're not really gonna charge out the pit lane. What did you think then of the news about Patrick Head? Because I've already talked about it and said that I don't think it is the right decision, because it's only a short-term fix if it does work, and not a long-term fix. And they need a long-term fix. So what do you think? Do you think it's the right thing, the wrong thing? Let me know.
I think it's the right thing at the moment. You know, after Paddy Lowe's gone on so-called leave, after he's been sacked from the team, pretty much, you know, it's important to bring such an experienced person into the team, and Patrick Head is exactly that right person to bring as a what was it?
Technical consultant.
Consultant. Yeah, I think for the short term, I think he's the best person that they can bring in, and I think that whilst they weigh up options as we finally have a car out on track, and that is, of course, the Renault of Daniel Ricciardo, as we see him going through turn one there. I think he's the right person to come into that team at the moment. Obviously, they don't have the long-term person that they want to bring in at the moment, but, he's the best person that they have available at the moment. So, why not bring him in at the moment? It kind of does make sense for them.
I understand that point of view, and I guess considering what they had at the team, it's better than what they definitely did have. But I just think they should be trying to get some younger people on board, honestly. But if this is a part of a plan that he's gonna say manage, or not manage, but advise people at that team how to improve the car, and then try and build a young group of engineers going forward at that team, maybe then something good can arise from that team in terms of the engineering department and stuff like that. But I get the feeling that he's only going to be a consultant for this year, and then he's going to go away next year. That's what I think is going to happen, and that's why I don't like it as a short-term fix. I think Williams should be looking for a more longer-term fix, honestly. But as Ricciardo is now on track, and now Sebastian Vettel is out on track, I'll just show an image of Ricciardo coming out onto the circuit.
And I haven't quite seen that from practice one. There's been contact between Giovinazzi and Hulkenberg. Was there any sort of punishment for that? I didn't actually see that. They're showing it on Sky at the moment.
They were called to the stewards, but I don't know if anything has happened. I'm going to assume not, but yeah, that was a very weird incident.
Proper contact between them. It's not like it was close. There was contact, as Charles Leclerc is now on track, and we see that is, I believe, Kevin Magnussen. Yes, indeed it is. Kevin Magnussen about to come out on track.
Yep, it is on the medium compound tyre, the C3, I believe, or C. Is it C3 or C2? I don't know. But it's the medium tyre.
C2.
As Ricciardo is on a lap on the hard
flag in the first sector, and that's Kimi Räikkönen. He's gone for some sort of spin. I'm not exactly sure where that is. That's turn 3. So out of the first couple of corners, he has spun the car. I'm sure we'll see a replay of that very shortly. A very weird spin to have it there. Not exactly the greatest start to this session for the Kimstar. Of course, we've seen with the tyre blankets, being mandated at that certain temperature, we're going to see the replay now. As you see, coming out on those cold tyres, coming out the pit lane through the first corner, and then coming very, very slowly indeed through turn 2, he just absolutely loses it. That's quite comical how he's lost it there. But I think that shows you how those new tyre blanket rules really do affect the cars coming out of the pit lane.
Yeah, that's even though it is more difficult because of those new rules to do with the tyre blankets, that was a very embarrassing spin. He literally put an ounce of throttle on compared to what you'd normally be doing in that corner, and the thing completely spun. So that's very embarrassing for Kimi, but hopefully he can get a move on and do a solid first lap time, as Sebastian Vettel is on a lap. Ricciardo has done a lap, but it's on the hard tyre, so it's probably not representative at all. Yet Ricciardo 32.9, that's not representative at all. That's just a starter lap, as Vettel last corner, and he'll now run to the line and go probably into the 1 minute 30s, I'm going to guess. We don't know because we have a dual camera.
He set a 1:30.6, so you were spot on with that.
Yeah, I think that's the exact time he did in practice 1, so that does show you the I guess the way the track evolves, because that's only his first lap in in practice 2, and he is on a harder compound of tyre than he was in practice 1. Here comes Charles Leclerc.
Purple through the middle sector.
Yeah, and now has probably the most simple final sector in Formula 1. A straight, then a corner that is a bit difficult, falls away from you on the exit, and then another straight, obviously the pit straight, opens the DRS, and is going to go fastest. Yeah, goes 4/10 faster. So Vettel, I think, I don't know if Vettel made an error, but I think he had traffic. But anyway, it's only the first run in practice 2, and a little confidence lock up into the middle sector. That's going to be no problem.
Yep, through this corner, which we can see Magnussen going through there. That's where Leclerc locked up. Magnussen with a team radio, which we cannot sadly hear. So if anyone can update us what they're talking about, that would be great. But, Haas, of course, I was at the last Grand Prix during these practice sessions, and the Haas did look comfortably quickest out of any other car in the midfield. And, this car has performed historically well here in the past. And I would expect much the same as well this weekend as the Renault does get out of the way. And Magnussen is only 4/10 off the fastest lap at the current moment.
Yep, and he now goes on the penultimate straight towards the final corner. Let's see how the Haas deals with it. Absolutely fine. And now runs to the line, and he will probably go into P3. Yep, he does. Half a second off. Good lap time on the same compound of tyre as Leclerc and Vettel. Gasly now goes up to 3rd. These lap times are just really sighters. They're not really proper qualifying laps. These are just getting a feel for the conditions and seeing how the car handles in the colder or cooler conditions in practice 2 than it was in practice 1.
Indeed, because at this time on Monday morning for me, on Sunday for you guys in Europe, of course, the race would just be underway. As we can see, Max Verstappen now going down the main straight with the DRS open, of course, with the DRS open by an extra 20 millimeters this season compared to last season. It certainly does make a big difference watching trackside, as we can see Max going through turn 1 and 2 using plenty of curb, and with the interesting little tyre difference breaking meter boards there. But Max looking very good through here, where the Red Bull should really come through its own with, how strong that Red Bull is aerodynamically through the middle part of the lap.
Yeah, this sector of the track, this is where the Red Bull should be in its absolute element, as he now comes into the middle straight, the middle DRS straight, or I guess the final DRS activation point. By the way, just to let you guys know, in case you were wondering, there is actually an extra DRS zone as Max Verstappen, no, that's Gasly backing off. There is an extra DRS zone for this weekend. There's the DRS on the pit straight, the DRS like it was last year on that middle straight, the very short straight compared to the others, but also there is a DRS activation point on the run to turn 4. So 3 DRS activation points should make the race very interesting. And here comes Max Verstappen and goes 2nd on the medium. So decent lap time there by Max. And now Gasly gets to have a run, as I think Bottas here is preparing for a lap.
Bottas.
Yep, is he on a lap or not? He looked like he was getting quite slow there.
No, he's on the lap. He's definitely on the lap. As he goes fastest, actually.
Does he go? Yeah, now he goes fastest. The timing screen had a bit of a glitch there. Yeah, Valtteri Bottas goes fastest. The only people waiting for to set a lap is the 2 McLarens of Norris and Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. By the way, guys, once everyone sets the first proper lap times, I will update the running order. I'll quickly show a picture of the Kimi Raikkonen spin, so they can see that's the exit of turn 3. Very embarrassing for Kimi, but happens to the best of them. Happened to Max Verstappen last year, of course. as Lewis Hamilton now is on the penultimate straight, heading towards the final corner, has traffic. It is a Williams, so that will affect him slightly. And he'll get a good run though. Slipstream to the... and he goes P4. So not that bad. Not great, but not that bad. Not that bad from Lewis Hamilton. And now we wait for Carlos Sainz to do a lap. I think this is Carlos Sainz on his out lap. He went.
Yeah, indeed, it is Sainz.
Yeah, he finished up in P7 in practice 1. Again, conditions not representative, but it does maybe show that Sainz has got a good feeling already around the track as he now begins his lap. Where is Norris? Norris is P8, I think, at the moment.
Indeed, he is. P8 on a 1:30.9.
Pretty good lap time as Carlos now heads up to turn 4 and uses the new DRS activation point for this year and completes the end of the first sector. Now is into the middle sector. This is where the McLaren car should be stronger compared to their rivals, honestly, is the middle sector. As passes a Haas there, going slow. Looks fine lap at the moment. No real issues I can have with it as he opens the DRS on the middle straight.
And gets past Lewis Hamilton there.
He does, and now is coming up to the second sector. Everyone, by the way, except for Grosjean, Russell, Kubica, and Ricciardo, has done their first lap times on the medium. As now, Carlos comes to the final corner. Hulkenberg goes P8 on a 30.8. And where will this put Carlos Sainz? Slight oversteer on exit, but that's all good. Opens a DRS, and he will go P7. Not a bad lap. Not a bad lap there by Carlos.
Pretty decent there. Only a 10th off the Red Bull of Gasly.
Yeah, not bad.
Of course, it is only practice, ladies and gentlemen. Calm down. I just remember you mentioning how where Kimi spun the same as Max, but of course Max had that massive boost of performance from the Renault engine, especially through that corner. That's of course why he spun.
Indeed it is, as they've just shown a replay there of Sainz having
Lando
some
Norris
oversteer.
on screen.
Yep, there he is, and he is coming to the final corner. Let's see if he can improve. No, he's not. I don't think he will. He went a bit wide there, I think, at the final corner. Let's see what he does. No, he doesn't improve.
Doesn't improve, but Hamilton purple through the first sector with the 28.6 through the first sector, as we can see him on board now, as we see that purple first sector, as he now comes through the DRS straight through the middle sector, now into that very difficult corner where you it's very difficult with the breeze, where you have to make sure you don't go too wide, don't want to clip that inside curb on the right hand side. But now up to the second sector split, he is green, but he's certainly not fastest, and only 44 hundredths, of course, his number 44 car off the fastest time at the moment of Valtteri Bottas. And now through the penultimate corner, which is a very weird corner. It's almost a double apex on the exit of the corner. You want to hit that apex twice, and as he comes up to the line, he goes P3 with a yellow final sector, not his personal best, and he is about a tenth and a half off the fastest time at the moment of a 1:30.1 of Valtteri Bottas.
Indeed, he is. He basically he did lose time as he went around the lap there. So he may be wanting to be going for another lap there, I think, as some people are pitting. And here is a replay of Hamilton at the final corner. Let's see what happened here. Nothing wrong with that, I don't think. I don't know why they're showing a replay of that, but to me there was nothing wrong with that. Maybe he could have been slightly more to the right, but looked fine to me. I don't think he lost any time. even though he did do a slower final sector. I think that might be because of the exit of the previous corner. It did look a bit rough over that exit curb. But
Yeah,
there you
not sure
go.
why. Not sure why they're showing that replay, but I must say, as I seen in this in practice too, as we now go to an advert, beautifully, thank you Sky Sports. But in practice too at Australia, the Mercedes certainly does look like a very loose car with the rear end. The drivers seem to be able to throw it in the corners and have to correct it a little bit more than, say, perhaps the Ferrari drivers. So that is perhaps why we've seen a replay of the last corner, as we've seen Hamilton having to correct it ever so slightly through the last corner.
Whilst I do the running order quickly along the bottom, why don't you quickly just try and read out some of the comments in the chat? You can find any good ones in there.
Yep, sorry, I did have my mic on mute by accident there. Max Clayton says, "Hey, Chazza and chat, and hello indeed to you, Max." There, but JB says thoughts on the Giovinazzi Hulkenberg incident. I didn't quite watch FP1, but I did see it just as I was joining the stream for FP2, and it was very weird. I'm not quite sure what to think of it. I think I need to watch it again, but very weird to see actually drivers make contact in free practice. You know, we might see the near hit and miss there, but very weird to see contact in FP1.
Yeah, it is. I thought Giovinazzi was more at fault because I don't think you should be that aggressive when trying to pass someone. Because I think it was after the checkered flag had gone down, I think. So they shouldn't be going that fast in the first place. So I don't know. I don't know why. Honestly, they were going that fast in or at the end of the session. There, they should have been slow because normally at the end of the session you basically have to cruise back to the pits like it's the end of a Grand Prix or the end of qualifying. And they, or at least Giovinazzi, seem to be going a lot faster than maybe Hulkenberg expected. I don't know.
Mythical Gamer and Botty Gamer are indicating the predictions that there could potentially be rain during qualifying tomorrow, which is absolutely ludicrous, which Botty Gamer indeed uses that word. That would certainly be some sight if we seen rain in Bahrain tomorrow. Who knows? It could potentially happen, but I think that we might just be getting teased by the weather. You know, it very often happens here in Australia. We get teased by the weather, and it ends up actually not happening.
Yeah, it's not going to rain. It's not going to rain. There is absolutely not a chance in hell it will rain. No way. Minus 0%. There is no way it will rain. I guarantee it will not rain. If it does, then I don't know what's going on, honestly.
Then what are you gonna do?
I was thinking of maybe I have to do some kind of forfeit. I don't know, but it's not going to rain in Bahrain. Come on.
And we've got our coverage back as we see Carlos Sainz going towards the end of the second sector split, as it now looks like they have put a little bit of fuel in the car. And no, okay, not quite yet. They're still going for their slight quali runs, as we've got some yellow flags in sector 1 and 2. What's going on there, as I'm sure we will potentially see.
Well, there's only Bottas, or Bottas is pitted. So you've got Leclerc, Hamilton, Vettel, and Sainz on track. So it must be one of them four that's caused it. I don't know what it's for. Maybe a bollard has fell onto the track, which does happen at Bahrain sometimes. I don't know though.
Here we go. Yeah, there's some bodywork of a car as some marshal has absolutely rushed off the circuit there. So not entirely sure whose bodywork it is there, but that has been now taken off the circuit, and that was the cause of the yellow flag.
It might be Perez because they're looking at the brake duct on the Racing Point. So it might be that, but I don't think it probably would be because that part, it looks like something that would fall off the underneath of the car or the back of the car. I don't think it'd be that. As we now have a lull in practice 2 at the moment, because I think people are now getting ready for the qualifying simulation now, where they put on the softest tyre. They don't necessarily turn all the fuel and engine up to the absolute maximum, but they will push the hardest they have had. And yep, here we go, Sebastian Vettel doing exactly that as he starts his qualifying simulation. Goes down to turn 1, and you can see there the brakes glowing. That just shows you how hard on the brakes Bahrain is, especially compared to Albert Park. And Albert Park, you barely do have to brake. As Vettel heads towards turn 4.
He's purple.
Looks absolutely fine at the moment. Yep, half a second up on Valtteri Bottas. That either shows you that he's turned up a lot or that those tyres... Oh, yes.
0.6 up through the first sector with a 28.1. Wow.
That is a very hot pace there as Vettel now on the final DRS straight as he's now coming towards the end of the lap through the left-hander and now into this.
Oh, he runs a little bit wide there, does Vettel.
That's going to cost him time, no doubt about it. He's definitely faster than Bottas, but that'll cost him time to Leclerc, I think. As Leclerc... No, not that much faster. Actually, Vettel was faster in the middle sector, so maybe it didn't cost him
Leclerc
anything.
2/10 slower than Vettel through the middle sector.
As Vettel now, on the pit straight, opens the DRS, and he will definitely go fastest on a 1:28.9. That's a very quick lap. As Charles Leclerc... second, a 1/10.5 down. So Leclerc must have made a small mistake, I think, because he was looking good after that first sector. So he must have made a small mistake that cost him maybe a 10th on that lap.
In the middle sector is where he lost his time to Vettel. He was only slightly off Vettel in the third sector, but we're seeing a replay here of Vettel running wide, I think, through turn 11, but it looked like it actually didn't cost him too much time. He was still able to carry the speed through the corner, so it didn't look like it lost too much time for Sebastian Vettel through that corner, as we're seeing the Chief Executive Officer of Ferrari, Lewis Camilleri, there on screen with Marc Jean, of course, the reserve and test driver, I believe. He's the test driver, isn't he, for Ferrari?
No, he's not a test driver. He's one of them, like, those people that go and take the old classic Ferrari F1 cars out for a run.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, he's like a demo run person.
Indeed, my mistake then.
But I've just got up on screen the speed traps. Now, Pierre Gasly is number 1, 322 kilometers per hour. And then you have Ricciardo and Hülkenberg, second and third. Then Raikkonen, Albon, Russell, Kvyat, Perez, Stroll, Giovinazzi. And what that shows is, for me, that Honda power is looking very good. And also Renault power, but I do want to see if McLaren can maybe make an effect to that. Unless they're running more downforce, we don't know. But yeah, looking nicely different in the speed traps for once. But I'll go back to that picture. Just wanted to show that to you guys because I know you guys in the chat do find that interesting to see who does have the best speed in certain sectors or around the lap, as someone else is. I think one of the Ferraris is going for another lap, but I don't know.
It looks like both of the Ferraris are going for another fastest lap, as we're on board with Charles Leclerc going down the second DRS zone. Let's see if he can improve on his time through the first sector as he heads through turn 4. You want to try take the maximum speed and hit the outside curb as much as possible. He's 0.3 off Sebastian Vettel through the first sector. So I don't think we'll be seeing any improvements from the Ferrari as Vettel is even slower than Leclerc's time through the first sector. So it doesn't look like the soft tyre, the red compound tyre, is lasting for a second lap here, which is going to be very important for the teams to know heading into qualifying.
Absolutely, and also for well, they'll see once we get towards the end of practice too for the race simulation, because that'll be interesting to see.
Indeed.
As Leclerc, he's still pushing, but he's not improving at all. So I'll just quickly update the order. It is a Ferrari 1-2 at the moment, but I do have to stress we have not seen Mercedes or Red Bull do a qualifying simulation as of yet. So let's not jump the gun as they go across the line. Maybe they'll be starting another lap to see if they can go a bit quicker. We'll have to see.
No, but, I think they're going to go for a cool down lap there.
Yeah, but we've only got 3 cars out on track: Vettel, Leclerc, and Bottas. I don't know if Bottas is on an out lap or not. I don't know.
I think so.
Right, so hopefully we'll see what speed he has. And one thing I have noticed that is good to see, Valtteri Bottas seems to be quicker than Lewis Hamilton at this track, which is not exactly a massive surprise because he was on pole, of course, in 2017 ahead of Hamilton. And then in 2018, out-qualified and out-raced Hamilton. So,
indeed,
it's not a surprise, but it's nice to see that Bottas, not that Bottas is faster, but that he is very competitive and looks like he is so far having a good weekend. He was looking good in practice 1, and yet Bottas is on an out lap. And yeah, looking good so far in practice 2. The only thing he can do is beat his teammate. And if he does that, then he's going to end up having a great season, of course. By the way, I'm just seeing Hulkenberg and Giovinazzi have been cleared over the collision. So, no penalties for those 2. I didn't think there would be any, honestly.
As Bottas is indeed on the soft tyre, it looks like he's on an out lap. Indeed he is, so he'll be warming up for that hot lap, and this will be very interesting to see where Mercedes are compared to Ferrari. Of course, you know, we're not seeing them run at full pace, but it'll be interesting to see, at least get a gauge to see where the Mercedes is compared to the Ferrari on this track in Sakhir, Bahrain.
Yep, it definitely will. One thing I am interested to see is the difference in lap time gain from the medium to the soft. Ferrari, maybe it was because they did turn up their power unit more, but they seemed to gain over a second from the medium tyre fast run they did at start. So I want to see what Bottas, or how much he can improve on the lap time he has done so far. Lewis Hamilton is now on track on an out lap, and so is Alexander Albon. As we now get a dual cam again, which I don't know why they're doing this.
Bottas.
Yeah, bit weird doing it for the same driver, but there you go. As he now is going to start his lap and head down to turn 1. It's a very, very long pit straight, and that is what makes overtaking such a great possibility here, because the pit straight is so long. As there's a car on the right.
I know very well. Both Ferraris.
Oh, that would have distracted him slightly, no doubt about it. As oversteer through turn 2, not the best start to his lap, and he's got Toro Rosso ahead, and he has backed off.
Yeah, he's backed off. Yeah.
Too many distractions there. Yeah, was it both Ferraris on the inside, or just one of them?
Both Ferraris on the inside of turn 1.
I've never seen that before. Both of them right behind each other, or right next to each other, parking almost on the apex of the corner. That was very weird. As Hamilton is now going to start his lap, and here we go.
See, both Ferraris.
That's very weird to see. Normally it'd be 2 different cars, but to see both cars of the same team doing the same thing, that looks very weird.
But it looks like we have Hamilton now starting his lap see if he gets held up by any particular traffic into turn one, but it doesn't look like it through turn one. As off board, it also looks like he's struggling with a little bit of oversteer coming out of turn two, but now down into turn four, the Mercedes, sparking away, clipping the apex beautifully through turn four, but we see Martin Brundle there speaking almost with Italian flavour there, moving his hands like an Italian. That looks like out of turn two indeed, but we have a split screen of Hamilton on the right-hand side, and Hamilton is set his personal best sector with a 28.5 through the first sector. As we see, that's Nico Hulkenberg on our screens on Sky Sports. Of course, you can recognise Nico Hulkenberg with having the yellow T-cam, whereas Daniel Ricciardo, or Daniel Avocado, as some people like to refer him as, that silly little kid. Ricciardo has a black T-cam. So as you can see on your screen at the moment, Lewis Hamilton has a black T-cam, as he is the driver who finished ahead in the standings, ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas. So Hamilton runs a little bit wide in the last corner, but where is he going to go on the soft tyre run? He's going to go into third place.
About half a second off, yeah.
5/10 off Vettel. Very interesting. Let's see where Bottas is after his lap. Bottas currently 0.2 of a second off Hamilton through the first sector alone. So this is very interesting, as Hulkenberg is flying down the penultimate straight and into the final corner. As we've got I don't know why we're being shown that on Sky Sports, to be perfectly honest. But Hulkenberg now goes into fourth place, 0.7 off Sebastian Vettel on the soft compound tyre, I believe.
But we obviously can't see it because we have to watch all the cars go through turn one and two and watch a Red Bull make a mistake on the exit of turn two there. Yeah.
But Bottas has gone 0.6 off Vettel on the soft compound tyre. So very interesting here. Mercedes half a second off Ferrari. The Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel at the moment after their first runs on the red striped tyre.
As Max Verstappen is on a quali simulation lap on the soft tyres as he runs. Oh, that's absolutely fine. I was going to say ran wide, but that was absolutely fine. As he now comes to the final corner and the slow first sector, I think we saw it on the Martin Brundle cam. He went slightly wide on the exit of turn two or midway through. As he now comes to the line, he will probably improve. Yeah, he does, but goes only 6th because he made that error in the first sector, so he can definitely go quicker than that. Hulkenberg is in P5, which is interesting, but I don't think he'll be that close to the Mercedes in qualifying. Who else have we got? We've got Sainz, Magnussen, Norris, Perez on outlaps. Pierre Gasly, I think, is on a lap, or should be. Because if he's set a new soft tyre lap run...
Gasly is on an outlap at the moment.
Okay. So...
Yellow flag somewhere on track. I've just seen on the live timing in Sector 3. Might just be for a car slowing down to let someone pass. I'm sure we might get a replay, but it's now cleared. But yeah, Gasly was on an outlap.
Okay, because I was wondering why he was down in P10. By the way, when it comes to the order on the bottom, I'll update it once we have the qualifying simulations finished with, which will be probably in the next 5 to 10 minutes, as Kevin Magnussen is on his quali simulation. Magnussen now coming into turns 9 and 10. He's got a car ahead though of the Red Bull on the inside. That will distract him slightly.
Verstappen.
And he now opens the DRS on the run down to turn 11 and is coming up to the end of the middle sector. The Haas car looks absolutely fine. Doesn't look like there's any issues with it, to be honest, as he is 0.7 off in the middle sector. Not massively quick compared to, say,
losing
Hulkenberg.
losing 2 tenths in the middle sector. He lost half a second in the first sector to the Ferrari of Vettel.
As he comes through the final corner, and now he's on the pit straight. Let's see what he does when he opens the DRS, and he will go into P7 on a 1 minute 30 dead exactly. That lap time, I'd like to see Hulkenberg's lap, because that's a very good lap. To be 3 tenths faster than the Haas, and to be a tenth or two behind the Mercedes cars. That's a very good lap time. As Carlos Sainz, let's see what he can do. As Norris is up in 8th, only P11. Well, actually, not that bad of a lap time. He's only about a tenth off. Perez.
We've got yellow flag somewhere again in sector 2, but they are cleared once again. Who knows? They might have just been displayed for debris, but I'm not sure if you have mentioned in the build-up, but Renault have brought some minor upgrades to Bahrain already, trying to improve on their pace that they had at Albert Park, which was quite disappointing. So, Renault, with the extra money that they've got for this season, looking to improve with some pretty early upgrades already.
Yeah, well, they need to, because their performance in Albert Park was not good enough, in my opinion. So yeah, hopefully they can be better here in Bahrain. And who is that? That's Perez, I think. Now this is Kevin Magnussen. They're all on a slow lap, I think. I think they're all going back to the pits.
Yeah.
As we have Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Russell and Stroll all in the pit lane, and everyone else is out on track. But I think most of them, if not all of them, are going quite slow at the moment. Yeah, I think now they're probably going to come back into the pits and start their race simulations, because we're already halfway through practice 2. So it makes sense for the teams to start trying to get the race setup working, see if we can get a good one, and see what the pace of the car is like when it's tanked up on fuel, because I think that's what people are doing now, as we're on board with Kevin Magnussen, but he's going slow.
I certainly think one of the drivers that hasn't set a fast lap at the moment on the soft tyre is Daniel Ricciardo. It looks like he's almost doing some sort of race simulation on this soft tyre at the moment. He's not exactly going for a quali simulation, so we might see later in the session him go for potentially a qualifying run, as I think we're seeing Kevin Magnussen go for another quali run here at the moment.
Yeah, he is, but on the TV, we're not seeing any sector times, unfortunately, because we have to see Karim Chandhok.
He sets a personal best of 28.7 through the first sector. I don't know where that is comparison to everyone else.
He now comes into the middle part of the lap, onto the DRS straight, and he's coming up to the end of the middle sector. Yep, we can see that he has improved on his first sector time. Let's see what he does in the middle sector. He'll want to be a bit closer to Hulkenberg, if not ahead, to be honest. And he's slower. So that's a bit weird, honestly, because I thought the Haas car would be a bit closer than that, but it's not looking that great at the moment. As throws it into the final corner. Car sparking, goes a bit wide, and I think this will not be an improvement for Kevin Magnussen. No, it's definitely not. So he is in P7. Grosjean in P9. Not bad for Haas, but I think could have been a bit better pace-wise at the moment, if I'm going to be honest. And yet mostly everyone is in the pit lane now.
I must say also, one person who hasn't done a proper qualifying sim is Pierre Gasly. He's currently in 12th position, 1.4 seconds off the lap time of a 128.9 of Sebastian Vettel. So be interesting to see if Gasly, as we now got Lando Norris doing his qualifying simulation. Be interesting to see where the McLaren is. Of course, it trackside in Melbourne, it didn't actually look like a very quick car, but operationally, that team runs very well, and they were indeed able to get Lando Norris starting P8 on the grid, but they got held up by the Giovinazzi train, which we did indeed find out that he had damage after the first corner. So even before the first corner, and they could have retired the car, but they decided not to. They kind of sacrificed Giovinazzi as a sacrificial lamb to Kimi Raikkonen, who eventually got P8 in the race. So Giovinazzi's train was not just him being dead slow, it was indeed due to issues with the car. But Norris, already slower in the first and second sector than he is already done. So it doesn't look like he will be able to improve on this lap.
No, he's not going to. I don't think so. Who else have we got out there? You got Gasly. Maybe he's about to do a proper lap. Ricciardo's in the pits. Vettel and Leclerc, I think, are on track for a race simulation. And yeah, Norris absolutely nowhere near as quick as he was on the lap that he did do. I'm currently just doing the running order at the moment, just finishing the order off. So we've got Perez in 14th, who has just pitted. Ricciardo 15th. I want to see what he can do later on in the session. I'm going to assume that Daniel Ricciardo is on a different program and that we'll be doing a quali simulation at the end. That's what I'm assuming is going to happen.
As the Sky Sports ad.
Yeah, well, luckily I can press the red button and
it actually looks like the Ferraris might be on a quali run, as Vettel has set a personal best first sector. So interesting here to see that Ferrari might be on a different program than we expected.
Yeah, on the red button, I have the timing screen up. Yeah, Vettel has done a better first sector, I think.
Yeah, he has, and Leclerc just half a tenth off of him in the first sector.
Interestingly, Lance Stroll is in between the two Williamses for some reason. Now, I know he crashed in practice one, and I think that car that's been stuck in the pit lane for a while, and the Force India mechanics looking around the car, I think that is Stroll's car. So there must be an issue with his car because he hasn't done that many laps. He's only done saying that he's done 10, but Russell's done 8, Giovinazzi's done 4. But there must be an issue with the car.
Vettel goes quicker on a 1:28.8. He set a purple middle sector, but didn't improve on his time in the final sector. But that was enough to improve on his lap time of a 1:28.9. So he improves by about a tenth and a half there. Does Sebastian Vettel, as Charles Leclerc does improve and is only 35 thousandths off of Sebastian Vettel on a 1:28.881. And the Ferraris decided to go out on another lap, another qualifying sim on the soft tyre, and they have just closed the gap to each other now.
That's good to see. I don't really know why they've decided to go for another qualifying sim, because they don't have to unless they want to burn through another set of tyres. But there you go, they've improved even further, because normally around this time they're going to start tanking the car up with fuel and start the race simulation. But interesting that Ferrari have gone for another quali run, as we, unfortunately, because of Sky Sports F1, we are still on an ad. I did get a look at the timing screen. So the order that is running along the bottom is the current live order of the current proceedings. So Vettel is fastest from Leclerc second. Bottas, is it Bottas third? No, it's Hamilton third. Bottas fourth. Hulkenberg, Verstappen, Magnussen, Norris, Grosjean. Let me just Kvyat, Sainz, Gasly, Albon, Perez, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Russell, Stroll, and Kubica. Interesting as well that Alpha are nowhere to be seen. They must be also on a different program, but they haven't done that many laps. Giovinazzi
Yes.
has only done 4, I think, and Raikkonen's done
Yep.
about 8.
Raikkonen has done 6, and indeed Giovinazzi has done 4. Of course, we've seen Raikkonen spin, and I don't think we've seen him out since then, as we're now seeing an old lap here of Sebastian Vettel through the final corner. This is the lap where he did go fastest, very wide through the last corner. Gee whiz. And there we go. He sets the 128.8, which we spoke about just a moment ago.
I don't think, by the way, that shouldn't be invalidated or anything, because you could see there on the sector time he did not gain lap time from doing that, even though he did go faster, but he was going to go faster anyway. Charles Leclerc goes faster, but is still not fastest. That's a replay.
I love how that's a replay. I was just about to mention, as we can see, there's only 4 cars out on circuit, as everyone will be loading up with some fuel for their race simulations.
Indeed, they will. We got Bottas, Albon, Stroll, and Kubica on the track. Stroll, I think, will be doing a quali sim in a moment, because his car hasn't really nailed to the track yet so far this weekend. So he does need to get some confidence going when it comes to qualifying. So I think he will do a bit more work on the qualifying simulation than he will the race, because he hasn't had the best start to his weekend.
And Mercedes are the first out on their qualifying, not on their qualifying, on their race simulations on the soft tyre.
Yep, you can see that now as Bottas is in the middle sector. Can I just say, Sky Sports F1's coverage is absolutely terrible, because here's why. Constantly changing camera angles, splitting screen. Like, let FOM do it. They are the masters when it comes to the coverage and the graphics. Let them do it. They constantly look again, split screen. Like, yeah, we get it. There's a problem with Kimi Raikkonen's car, we think.
Yeah,
we don't need to see it.
Stands. That's not good for Alpha, that's for sure.
We don't really need to see it. I mean, Karim Chantok is not going to be lying. We don't need to really see it. We want to see the cars on the track. And I really don't like this constant split screen, split screen, split screen. It's very, very annoying. And I wish they'd stop.
Ted.
I wish they'd stop doing it, because it's so annoying. Just leave it to FOM and let them do it. They have been doing it for years. They know what they're doing. You've got the 2 Mercedes, or Hamilton's on an out lap, but he's starting his race simulation, and so is Hulkenberg, Verstappen, the 2 Toro Rossos, Russell. Lance Stroll is on a quali sim, but it's not very quick. If he improves the final sector slightly more, he might go ahead of his teammate, but it's not going to be that quick.
Who were you talking about?
Lance Stroll is in the final corner now, and he went slightly wide at the final corner. That was not a good final corner, and he goes 17th.
Of course, the man who has faster race pace than Nico Hulkenberg and Esteban Ocon, according to Sergio Perez. As we're going to see I don't know if we're going to see a potential mistake here from Stroll through the last corner. We're just seeing this.
It is a slight mistake.
A little bit wide through the last corner, that's for sure. Struggling with a little bit understeer through the final corner. There is the Racing Point car, which I must say I'm not a big fan of the livery of that car.
I don't mind it. It looks alright to me. Nothing that special. It's lost its uniqueness for me, that livery. But there you go. So Kimi Raikkonen has an issue, but what about Antonio Giovinazzi? Because he's only a 10th faster than George Russell, and we haven't heard or seen that he has an issue. So I want to see what he can do if he is going to go out and do another qualifying run, because that is poor to be only a tenth faster than a Williams. I'm going to assume that Alfa Romeo have some kind of issue with both cars, because they haven't really been that noteworthy. The only time we've seen them on track is when Kimi Raikkonen spun on the exit of turn 2 into turn 3.
I'm going to try and find out now.
I've actually just, as you say that, I've just found out. Both cars up on stands and the floors removed on both. And Sky is reporting that it is unlikely that either car will reappear in the session.
Oh, that is not good news for Alfa Romeo. That's going to compromise their weekend massively, as these are only the realistic track conditions that we'll see in the race, apart from qualifying. So that this is going to compromise Alfa Romeo's weekend massively.
It will. It will. They are going to lose a lot of data compared to teams like Renault, Haas, Toro Rosso, McLaren, Racing Point. The list goes on. And yeah, that's going to make their job tough for the race. For qualifying, they should have the pace to be competitive with Kimi Raikkonen. But on race day, yeah, they're not going to have the data to really know what to expect from the tyres, how the car is handling the heavier fuel around this track with the tyres and the degrading tyres and the soft tyres that don't look like they're hanging on very long. That's a lot of data to lose out on, and that's not good for Alfa. And that's a bit sad, because I was hoping Alfa would have another, say, similar result to what they had at the first race, say an 8th place with Kimi Raikkonen or something like that, because I want Alfa to be strong this season, but it's not been actually that good of a start for them. I thought they were a bit disappointing in Melbourne, and they're having a troubled start here in Bahrain, as we have 33 minutes left in practice 2. And I think now the order running along the bottom of your screen, guys, is the final order, unless Daniel Ricciardo goes out and does a proper qualifying lap, unless he made a mistake on his lap, we don't know. That is going to be most likely the final order. So the 2 Ferraris on top by quite a big margin, but to be honest, we kind of expected that. They've been very good at this track for a number of years. I'd say Ferrari are the most... They've always had the best kind of pace here in Bahrain. They were very good in 2004, 2006, 07, 08, 2010, 15, 16, 17, 18. They've always been good at Bahrain. Always had good pace. So it's not a big surprise they're quick, but it is looking good for Ferrari. They look like they do have the speed that we thought they were going to have in Melbourne, as Danny Kvyat is now on a race simulation. Bit of understeer into the final corner. One thing I noticed in testing was Toro Rosso looks very settled when it has fuel on board, and does look good when it comes to say race simulations. But Nib, for the moment, whilst I quickly just try to have a drink and help my throat, try if you can to read out a couple comments from people in the chat. And by the way, before I let you do that, don't forget to subscribe for the qualifying watch along and the race watch along this time tomorrow and on Sunday for the qualifying and the race. Don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe and hit the notifications bell. But yeah, Nib, try if you can and read out some comments, as we're now into the most boring part of practice 2.
Right, so we'll start off with Pedro Goldfinger saying, "True, Sky is all over the place with the cameras. Not good storytelling." Indeed, Sky are all right, but they are certainly not the best F1 channel to be around for the coverage. ITV and BBC was certainly better in my opinion, even though they did have the adverts. let's see. We've got I'm sorry, I can't quite pronounce your name. Paticiano saying that Vettel needs to win the championship this year, and indeed, I do agree with you. Vettel, if he wants to cement his legacy as one of the best drivers ever on the Formula One grid, he needs to win the championship this year. It is certainly the most important year to cement his legacy in the sport this season. Mr. Random Guy saying Ferrari 1-2 in quali and race. Well, I think we need to settle down. It's only practice 2. I think that although practice 2 are the most representative conditions that we have for qualifying and for the race, the teams aren't absolutely pushing to the absolute limit yet. But Ferrari is certainly very keen to show that they have good pace here this weekend and that they can bounce back from their poor weekend at Albert Park. As we can see, an exit speed through turn 7 comparison between Lewis Hamilton and Roman Grosjean. Yeah, and you can see that Hamilton is about 30 kilometers an hour quicker than Grosjean. But of course, that is compared to Hamilton's fastest time, where he was on a qualifying sim and not a race sim, whereas that is certainly what Roman Grosjean is on at the time being. And of course, Roman Grosjean at the moment is in P9. But Sky Revola or Relova is saying Red Bull Honda with the GP2 engine. Well, if you certainly looked at the first race, they certainly do not have a GP2 engine in the back of that Red Bull because, to pass the Ferrari in a straight line at a track where it is extremely difficult to overtake is quite a remarkable achievement. And I don't think they would have been getting a podium in the last race if they had a Renault engine. So massive kudos to the Honda Power Unit, which certainly looks like they've taken another step forward. I think the Renault Power Unit has taken a step forward compared to last year. It will take a couple of races to see where all the power units lie in terms of power and performance, but we will see. But I think Chaz is now ready to talk.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm gonna just quickly pop off to the toilet whilst I can and try and get my voice back as well with a nice drink.
Okay. We are into the race simulations. The only people not on track are Vettel, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Stroll, and Giovinazzi. Of course, the two Alfa Romeos have issues. Lance Stroll is in the pits because he's had a troubled practice 2, has some kind of issue with his car that delayed his running early on, so he's a bit behind everyone else. Daniel Ricciardo is on a different program, and now Vettel is on the track. So there you go.
I must just say, I didn't quite leave because I seen Sky running the image of the Ferrari mechanic on the left-hand side, and that was indeed the Ferrari mechanic who had his leg broken at this race this time last season. So he was indeed at the Melbourne Grand Prix back with Ferrari. I think he returned late last season with the Ferrari team, and it's certainly good to see him back after his quite horrible leg break that he suffered in the pit stop of Kimi Raikkonen's car at the last Bahrain Grand Prix. But now I'm definitely off to go to the toilet, so I'll be back.
Okay. I'm just having a read through the chat because again, the race simulations, even though you have to pay attention, you can't really get a gauge on who does actually have the pace. Bottas doing a 35.9 there. We need to see the Ferraris or the Red Bulls as we now get a picture of Giovinazzi's car, and that does not look good. I'm going to assume it's some kind of maybe an issue with the power unit that is affecting both cars. Maybe the way it's positioned with the bodywork or something like that. I don't know. But now, as we've got a replay here of Toro Rosso getting close to the back of a Mercedes. Let me now read through the chat to see what you guys are saying. Mr. Random Guy says Ferrari 1-2 in quali and the race. For qualifying, you'd have to make Ferrari the absolute favourite. To be almost 3/4 of a second ahead of Mercedes, they have to be favourite for pole. For the race, who knows? Honestly, who knows? We don't know what's going to happen with that. And right now, we are seeing who does have the pace when it comes to race pace. Conquered Toy Truck says that the issue for Stroll was the floor, or they're fixing the floor on Stroll's car. So yeah, that might be what the issue is. But also they were looking at the brake duct on Lance's car. Right. We're just seeing here the Red Bull. I don't know which Red Bull. I think it's Pierre Gasly on a race simulation. And Gasly there, if Red Bull and Mercedes are running the same fuel, Gasly there was 0.2 faster than Bottas was a couple laps ago. So the Red Bull on the soft tyre looking good, but that's not really a surprise because Red Bull do tend to have the best race pace, and also they do tend to look after the softer tyres better than Ferrari or Mercedes do. As Hamilton and Albon there, I think, just ducking past a car. Don't know who it was. And Lewis Hamilton coming in for a practice pit stop. As we are now about 23 minutes away from the end of the session. Let me just post this picture. Nice looking picture of Lewis Hamilton in Bahrain. And by the way, if you are just joining, the order running along the bottom is the official live order right now. By the way, Daniel Ricciardo is on an out lap. Be interesting to see if he goes for a proper fast lap or is just going to go for race simulations. We'll have to see. As we're on board here with a Racing Point. I don't know which Racing Point it is because I can't see the helmet. Is it Perez? I don't know. I have absolutely no idea which Racing Point this is. But it's currently in the middle sector. But, right. Here is that nice picture of the Mercedes through the middle sector. For Mercedes, their car doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look as good as the Ferrari. As Sebastian Vettel has spun in the same place that Kimi Räikkönen spun. So it seems
just
as
though...
though...
you were saying that the Ferrari looks better than the Mercedes.
He's spun in the same place that Kimi spun. So I'm going to assume he's just been in the pits. And he gets going again. Absolutely fine.
Let me see.
Here's the replay.
No, it looks like he's been on a race simulation and he's just lost it through there. Ooh, very odd spin there. I don't know what happened through there. As we're seeing another replay of it, gets on that curb,
clipped the inside curb,
loses it. Clipped the inside curb, must have just unsettled the car, and he has gone spinning around. But yeah, he hadn't come out of the pits. He was on a race simulation, so that has certainly disturbed his program that he was running. And so now probably going to have to pit to put on a new set of tyres after he locked those up quite heavily.
Yep, he is going to have to pit for another set because those will be done now because they would have lost all their temperature and they would have had flat spots in them. So those tyres are done. As this is Daniel Ricciardo. But I don't think he is. I hope he is on a qualifying run, but I don't know if he is.
He's on an outlap at the moment.
So we'll find out once we get to the end of the first sector if he is on a proper qualifying lap or not. Here we go. And he starts the lap, opens the DRS down towards... No, he doesn't. So this is a race simulation.
Yeah.
Well... Either he's on a different program or he made a mistake on his run that he did earlier. Definitely one of those two. Because there's no way he is, what, 1.3 seconds slower. The Renault car is definitely faster, looking faster than the Racing Point, for example. So he must be, we haven't seen a mistake. He must be on a different program, must be focusing all out for the race. And then
Yeah,
maybe practice 3, he'll try out some different setups for the qualifying session tomorrow.
and through the first sector, he's very similar on pace with his teammate Nico Hulkenberg, with Lando Norris. Magnussen's about 3 tenths off, but he's been doing more laps than Ricardo. I believe, yes, Magnussen is 12 laps into his stint, and Ricardo is 7 laps into his stint, whereas Nico Hulkenberg is 6 laps onto his stint, but Nico Hulkenberg is on the medium tyre and is quicker than Ricardo on who is on the soft tyre. So it looks like the medium tyre is looking actually quite strong, potentially in terms of race pace here, as the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton is on the medium tyre, and Valtteri Bottas has been doing a race simulation on the soft tyre now for 18 laps, and is doing a 30.6, a 41.6 as well through the middle sector, and that is looking fairly competitive compared to the times that the Ferraris are doing, about say 8 laps younger on their soft tyres.
To, to be honest, around here, the harder the tyre you have for the race, the better it is going to perform. If you look at last year, the harder the tyre you went on, the better performance you got out of it. So I expect exactly the same, because I've noticed with the Pirelli tyres this year, last year, and the year before, if the temperature is high, then the harder tyres are the ones to go on. But if it's lower temperature, then you go on the softer tyres for the race, and vice versa. So for Bahrain, for this Grand Prix, I'm expecting teams, if they are starting on the soft, and if they do pit relatively early, I'm expecting them honestly to go onto the hard compound tyre to get to the end. But if you are outside the top 10, or if you do qualify inside the top 10 on the medium, then the ideal strategy for me is going to be medium to hard. That is the best race strategy, in my opinion, for the Bahrain Grand Prix, because the medium will give you good life for quite a long time, and then the hard will get you to the end, and you'll be able to push quite hard for a few laps. So I think in the race, anyone who starts on the soft tyre will be looking to get that tyre off between lap 10 and 15, and then put the hard on. And anyone on the medium tyre will be looking to go into, say, lap 20, maybe even to lap 25, and then put the hard on and go to the end. It should be, unless it's a very competitive field, it should be a one-stop race all around.
Absolutely should be a one-stop race, as the tyres are even harder than what they were last year, and that is something that I want to discuss with you with the tyres. I think that we've seen with the new regulations that the cars are certainly able to follow closer. In 2018, we only seen 3 overtakes at the Australian Grand Prix, and a couple of weeks ago we seen 17 overtakes, and I think it was quite clear to see throughout the race that the cars were able to follow better, but the drivers just aren't able to push on the tyres. And I think that it really is the tyres that are holding back the drivers now. I'm not entirely sure what you think about this. I certainly was talking about with a mutual friend of ours today, and I think the tyres currently are ruining the sport. If we had tyres which the drivers were able to push on whilst they were behind other cars, I think we'd see even more overtakes than what we have at the moment.
My original opinion before 2018 was to make them very wearable or force pit stops, but now my opinion of that is completely swapped. I think now we should be making tyres even harder, because Pirelli, I don't think they can make tyres anymore that can really wear out properly for the drivers to make 2 or 3 stops a race like they used to in 2011, 2012, and 2013. So what I would do is just make the tyres harder, more durable, and kind of design them more towards the hard compound tyre. Not fully, because you do want to have races where you want to be able to have good feeling on a soft compound of tire. But the reason they're complaining about the tires is because if you push for 2 or 3 laps, you're putting a lot of load into the tire and then creating that overheating situation. And this is why with these tires it's so hard to race and also look after your tires, because if you have them overheating slightly too much, then you're going to end up falling down the field or losing pace. And that's why they don't tend to want to get into battles, or they can't get into battles, is because the tyres are overheating. And these tyres, since maybe even 2017, you could argue, they've been very sensitive to temperature. And that is the issue. They need to make them a lot more consistent when it comes to temperature and overheating and stuff like that. That would be a big helping hand for the drivers if the tyres wouldn't overheat so much. As you got that's Daniel Ricciardo still on his race simulation. But yeah, the tyres, the reason they can't race with them is because they overheat too quickly. Tyres overheat in any form of motorsport, but you don't want them overheating 2 or 3 laps into pushing. Say 15 laps in, 10, 15 laps in, that's a lot better. But 2 or 3 laps in, I mean, what can you do with tyres like that? That's why drivers end up just sitting behind another driver. But yeah, I used to think that the tyres should be made to wear a lot, but now it's completely changed around for me. Now I think the tyres should be made to be durable. But there you go. I think the issue is overheating. They need to solve the overheating issues of tyres whenever they get remotely close to another car.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And, as soon as any driver behind, a car tries to push to try and overtake, the car just starts to slide about because the tires just overheat. And I certainly agree with you. I definitely thought that they needed to make the tires softer, so we could see more pit stops, see more action. But the drivers wouldn't actually be able to push if the tires were softer, because they would just run out even quicker. So I do agree. I think they need to go in a harder direction, even harder than what they are at the moment. And just to see that the drivers can actually push on the tires with without the tire overheating.
But with this current tyre we have in Formula One, it's difficult for them to follow, to try and overtake or keep up with people when the tyres overheat the way they do. And this is the thing, all the drivers want to race and overtake people, but the reason they don't always, or they'll be a bit more cautious with their tyres, is because they don't want to fly past everyone and then fly down the field because they've destroyed their tyres. So, you can't go balls out like you used to anymore and just overtake loads of people and push as hard as possible like you used to in the refueling days, where you had tyres that could take the constant lap after lap after corner pushing to the absolute maximum, even more sometimes. They can't. I know that there were different tyre companies back then, but they can't do that anymore. And that's what the drivers would prefer, is if they had tyres where they could just push all the time. But I will say, people will complain about, they save tyres too much and stuff like that. What people are forgetting is tyre saving has been a big part of Formula One since the 60s or the 70s. It's been a massive part of Formula One. People like to make you believe that, back in the good old days in the 80s, there was no such thing as tyre wear and no one ever made a pit stop. All that stuff, that's absolute rubbish. There's plenty of races you can go back and watch where there was races that were directly affected by bad tyre wear or people having punctures because of tyre wear. It's just been a part of Formula One ever since we had proper tyres, proper slick tyres. I think in the early 70s or the mid 70s. It's just been a part of Formula One. There's nothing you can do about it. Some races or some seasons, the tyres a bit more wearing than others. So with the tyres, you're never going to make them impossible to wear and, impossible to be overheated. But I think the issues with the tyres have become clear that it is a heat issue. They just get overheated way too easily, and they need to solve that. They need to make them much more, much less sensitive to overheating, because it's just not creating as good a racing as I think we could get. As I'm just watching here, Pierre Gasly on the medium compound doing a 36.0. As, by the way, whilst we're talking, there is a practice session going on, and we are 9 minutes away from the end. And the running order, running along the bottom, is, by the way, the final order, or not the final order, absolutely, but is most likely going to be the final order here in practice 2. And yeah, there's just not that much going on right now. I'm going to try and quickly read through the chat. Maxine, what time is Sebastian Vettel's lap? It's a 1:28.8. And I have it written down here. Vettel's pole lap from last year. Vettel's pole lap from last year was a 1:27.9. So he's only 9/10 of a second behind his pole position from 2018. So he will go faster than that pole position once we get into qualifying. Yeah, the pole position record will definitely be broken. There's no doubt about that. It'll be interesting to see though if anyone can finally break the race lap record, because Pedro de la Rosa has had it since 2005, where he did a 1:31.4. He's held it for so long. It's been 14 years. Someone has got to break it.
Sauber are back out on track with at least Antonio Giovinazzi, which is good to see them back out on track.
Yep, he has stayed in 18th place. But at least they got back out on track. But yeah, a bit surprising. I know the Formula One cars were very, very quick back then, but 14 years that race lap record has stood. That is a bit surprising that no one's ever really got near it.
Yeah, but it's due to the fuel loads, with back with refueling, they're on lower fuel loads with fresher tyres than what they could be on nowadays. So I think that's why.
I don't think, well, the tyres, it's definitely the tyres, because that year you had to do the whole race on the same set of tyres. And he did that, by the way, on lap 43. So his tyres would have been absolutely wearing to shreds. But if pole is in the 1:26s this year, which I don't think it will be, I think it'll probably be an early 27, you could get a new race lap record, because the cars are normally 4 to 5 seconds, about 5 seconds slower in the race than they are to qualifying. If you look at the best lap in a race to the best lap in qualifying, normally the cars are about 5 seconds slower in the race. It could happen. There's a closer chance of it happening this year than there was in the past couple of years. But yeah, Pedro de la Rosa has the race lap record, and eventually someone's going to break it, but I don't know who it is going to be. As we are now 6 minutes away from the end of practice 2. Right, well, as we're coming to the end of practice 2 then, Nib, what are your thoughts then based on what we've seen, the pace? Who do you think is looking good going into qualifying and going into the race, going into the qualifying as well? Who is not looking so strong?
Well, certainly looking good at the moment is Ferrari. Even comparing them to their on the race pace at the moment, I have got the official F1 live timing, and at the moment, Vettel and Leclerc on the same times as Vettel on the same times as Hamilton is lapping about 6/10 of a second quicker than Ferrari. Than Hamilton. So at the moment, as I did kind of expect coming to Bahrain, Ferrari certainly look like they do have the upper hand at the moment. I don't think we should be getting carried away with any sort of results that we see in any practice session. Really, I think that everything this season is going to change so much through qualifying, with the top two teams, and especially through the midfield. But certainly, Ferrari in the 1 lap pace and in the race pace, Ferrari is certainly looking very strong.
Sorry, I was just muted there. Having a quick drink. Yeah, Ferrari, they are looking the favourites for pole. There is no doubt about that. Also looking good, Renault. I want to see what Ricciardo can do though. But I think Renault are looking a bit better than I thought they would. I didn't think they'd be that strong in Bahrain. Haas, not that bad. McLaren are looking good. They're looking a lot stronger than I thought they would. I thought they'd be more so where Perez and Ricciardo are right now, 14th, 15th, honestly. I didn't think they'd be P8 and P11. Toro Rosso look quite good, about where I thought they'd be. But for the teams that are not looking good, I have to say Alpha, based on lack of running and the pace that they've had, and Racing Point. I thought Racing Point would be a lot stronger than they have been. They don't look to be that quick. I thought they'd be a lot closer to the top 10, but they're not. But with the car that's currently on the track now, or that we can see on our screens right now, Lewis Hamilton, for his team, even though they are miles off in Formula One terms, Ferrari, I don't think necessarily it's been a terrible day for them. I mean, they weren't expecting to have the best car here. I don't think really that many people were expecting them to have the best car. So I don't think necessarily they've had a bad day. They just don't have as good of a car as Ferrari do. It doesn't necessarily mean they are having a bad day. Red Bull, I think, have had a scruffy practice too. Verstappen, I think, should have been a bit quicker than he was. He did make a mistake in the first sector of his qualifying simulation. Gasly, of course, we didn't see what he could do. But definitely Ferrari look to have a clear advantage over everybody else, like they did last year. I think things will close up in qualifying. I think Mercedes will be closer in qualifying. But no doubt, as Leclerc almost gets his nose cut off by a Toro Rosso.
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
Ferrari undoubtedly are the favourites for not only pole, but the front row, like they did, or like they got last year, and they really should get the front row for this Grand Prix. Their car looks very, very good in Bahrain, and it looks as though, compared to what I saw, and plenty of people saw in testing, normal service for Ferrari has resumed. And now you've got the two Mercedes pitting, so we're coming now to the end of practice 2. By the way, guys, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. I will be doing a qualifying watch along tomorrow and a race watch along on Sunday around the same time, so don't forget to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there by clicking subscribe, and also click my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell as well. And also, don't forget to like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video and what you thought of the results of practice 2, as we are now in the final 30 seconds. We're not going to do, by the way, a massively long review of practice. We're probably only going to stay on, say, 5 minutes after the end of practice 2 here, as here is a replay of Leclerc and Albon. I think Albon knew he was there, but Leclerc just was caught slightly unawares, but it was all fine. Once Leclerc passed him into turn 4.
Bit more exaggerated how close they were from the trackside camera that we seen originally. That's for sure. I thought they were a bit more close than what they actually were.
Yeah, well, yeah, certain cameras can deceive you as to how close or far away the cars are between each other. But yep, there you go. Checkered flag. Sebastian Vettel, fastest of all, from Charles Leclerc second, and then you have a 0.6 of a second gap back to Lewis Hamilton, and 0.7 back to Valtteri Bottas. Ferrari definitely do have the best car in Bahrain. There is not a doubt about it. Ferrari are the favourites in Bahrain, and, well, if they can maintain that speed, then hopefully they can get the result to show for it, because they need to respond to what Mercedes did in Australia. So there you go. That's the end of practice 2. I will in a minute, once I can find it. I will find a quick graphic of the full results with all the lap times of practice 2. But I can tell you that Sebastian Vettel's lap time was a 28.8. Leclerc also did a 1:28.8, but of course not as fast as Vettel, about 0.03 of a second behind Vettel. Then Hamilton back in the 1 minute 29.4, and then Bottas at a 1:29.5. Yep, that's the end of practice 2, as everyone now has either had the checkered flag shown to them or is now in the pits. So, there you go. There is practice 2 in Bahrain. As I'm just waiting for a results graphic anytime now to pop up from a certain Formula 1. But there you go. I'll read out the order quickly. So Vettel has ended fastest from Charles Leclerc second, Hamilton third, Bottas fourth, Hülkenberg fifth, Verstappen sixth, Magnussen seventh, Norris eighth, Grosjean ninth, Kvyat 10th, and then Carlos Sainz in P11. 12th is Pierre Gasly, 13th is Alexander Albon, then Perez 14th, Ricciardo 15th, Raikkonen 16th, Stroll is 17th, Giovinazzi is 18th, Russell is 19th, and Kubica is 20th. So that is your order, finishing order for practice 2 in Bahrain. As let me just try and find, if I can, a final picture. I'll just throw this on the screen to show you the Ferrari. That picture, by the way, of the rear end of the Ferrari looks absolutely fantastic, as far as I'm concerned. But
Win now. Sponsorship back on the car. Of course, the very strict Australian government hate Philip Morris, who are like the father company of Mission Win Now. So that's why they were banned from using that sponsorship in Australia. They have it. They actually have a legal ongoing court battle, so that's why they couldn't see. But as we can see now, Sebastian Vettel fastest from Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton.
yeah, indeed, Ferrari on top. Nice to see, because I didn't want to come to Bahrain and see that Ferrari was still struggling like they were in Australia, but of course they had issues like they did that we discussed in Australia with cooling, setup, power unit. Most of that looks to be resolved, as I'm just looking through the times. Kimi Raikkonen was 16th on the medium tyres, so he if he did do a time on the soft, he probably could have got in that top 10 battle, I think. I think Kimi does have the speed for a top 10 finish in qualifying and maybe the race, but Alpha there have missed out on a lot of data for the Grand Prix. But right, hold on a minute. I'll just go back to that picture. But I'll read out some final comments from you guys, and then I will come off the stream. Sebastian says this is the Ferrari we all saw in testing, which suggests Ferrari are stronger at power-specific tracks. This is the Ferrari I saw in Barcelona. This is absolutely the Ferrari I saw in Barcelona. Vettel could have gone faster, but messed up last sector, lost about 2/10. Exactly, that's another thing. Sebastian could have gone faster than he did.
I think both drivers could have gone faster on both the laps. They made mistakes in every sector, actually.
Francisco says practice 3 for tomorrow is going to be crucial for Alpha. Indeed. Joseph says Haas may be able to score with 2 drivers this weekend. Hopefully they can. A good weekend for Haas would be both drivers scoring points. Even if they don't finish maybe as high up as they want to, a double points finish with both drivers would be ideal for them. Let me just find a couple more comments here.
I must say, just whilst you're looking for a couple of comments, that I'm quite looking forward to that segment with Johnny Herbert and the 3 rookies of Albon, Russell, and Norris. And I think we're going to enjoy Johnny Herbert being a blithering fool during that segment.
Yeah, he will do his part like he usually does. But the final comment that I am going to finish on, let me just find it. I had it just then. Hold on. You know what? I'll read this one out to end from Cameron Evans. What does the Williams look like at night? They said it looks different. It still looks absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. It is the worst car on the grid for livery, pace, everything. It's absolutely awful. But there you go. And let me just bring this screen in to end. There you go.
I love it. We have Toto Wolff immediately on Sky Sports saying this is the Ferrari that we've seen in Barcelona and all that. Well, I think we can certainly all agree with that. But certainly to go along with the theme of your video early in the week, the Mercedes team are already certainly playing those mind games.
Yeah, Mercedes can go faster and be closer to Ferrari. I don't doubt that.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't doubt that.
They're not a tenth ahead of Renault. They're certainly a little bit more than that ahead of Renault.
Yeah, definitely. They'll probably be, if they are on the second row, probably be like a quarter of a second or third of a second gap, not 6 to 7 tenths. But anyway, that is the end of the Practice 2 watch along for the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix. And I just want to say thank you to Nib for coming along for the first watch along of 2019 for you.
And indeed, I'm very happy to be along for the watch along. Apologies for being a little bit late. I just had to attend to a certain situation. So, yeah, I'm happy to be along. And of course, I will be along for the qualifying watch along tomorrow. And I'm certainly looking forward to that, where I think we will see the most representative running of the season so far.
Yeah, we should, and we should see who does have a genuinely good car and who does not. But yeah, thanks, mate, for coming along and being a part of the stream. And yep, guys, that is the end of this stream. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. On the bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for more content like this. And that content is a qualifying watch along tomorrow, and also a qualifying review after qualifying has finished tomorrow as well. And then the race watch along on Sunday and a race review on Monday. So don't forget to subscribe for that content. Like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video, and what did you think of the performances of the teams and who is looking good and who is not looking good going into qualifying here in Bahrain. Don't forget as well to join the Discord server. That is the best place for notifications for my videos, and we have a good growing community over there in Discord. That's the hardcore part of our community, so if you do want to join that, link below in the description and you can do so. Also, follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110 so you can keep up to date with me and what I'm doing with the channel. And also, check out chazerhd.com for more content like this. But guys, until 2 p.m. tomorrow, UK time, for the qualifying watch along, it has been me, ChazerHD. Goodbye.